might seem crazy what I'm about to say. Sunshine, she's here, you can take a break. I'm a hot air balloon that could go to space. With the air, like I don't care, baby, by the way. Because I'm happy. Clap along if you feel like a room without a roof. Because I'm happy. Clap along if you feel like happiness is the truth. Because I'm happy.
Customer Data Summit Middle East and Africa, brought to you by Lemnisk. I'm Subra Krishnan, CEO of Lemnisk, and I will be your host today. A quick word on Lemnisk before kicking off. Lemnisk's customer data platform-led personalization and marketing automation solution delivers superior customer experiences that result in increased conversions, retention, and growth for enterprises. The key capabilities include the ability to uniquely resolve a user in real time across different data sources and channels, creating one-to-one hyper-personalized experiences for each user across multiple marketing channels, and orchestrating individual customer journeys on the right channels at the right time using a proprietary inbuilt AI engine. Lemnisk has offices in Dubai, Singapore, Bangalore, and Boston. Lemnisk is ISO 27001 and ISO 27018 certified. For more information, please visit www.lemnisk.co. That's lemnisk.co. You can also email us at marketing@lemnisk.co if you're looking for CDP-driven marketing automation or personalization this year. Right, so that's the quick plug. That's done and dusted and behind us. So let's just get started with the afternoon's summit. So thank you once again. So today's Customer Data Summit is actually the second of 3 summits that we planned across Southeast Asia, Middle East, and India regions. We had our Singapore event earlier this month, and we have a very, very exciting session planned today as well. We put together this event focused on data-driven marketing, mainly because we are seeing a very strong trend in the MEA region among marketeers who are starting to understand and leverage the power of their customer data. I think it's also fair to say that as we slowly heal from the scars of COVID-19, being data and digital savvy is no longer a trend, but almost a survival mandate. So the speakers today actually represent some of the sharpest minds in the region who are at the forefront of this trend and are experts at harnessing data to transform their businesses. As a digital marketing enthusiast, I'm really, really looking forward to it. So a quick sort of summary of the events, the 3 sessions that we'll have today. So we'll kick off today's summit with a panel session titled The Rise of the Super Intelligent Marketer. Usama Zafar, who's the head of digital and direct marketing at Abu Dhabi Islamic Bank. Mandeep Gulati, Director of Digital Products and Innovation and Head of Digital Platforms at Al Raji Takaful, and Gaurav Chaparwal, Founder and CEO of Data Hash, will talk about modern marketing ideas and principles and give you some terrific insights on how to extract and leverage data to drive business outcomes. I will introduce each of them in more detail ahead of the panel session, which will start in just a few minutes, right? Now, after this panel, in a session titled Technology-Driven Data Transformation, we will have Thomas Cherian, EVP Head of Technology Retail Banking at Mashreq Bank, talk about what it takes to craft and execute successful digital transformation strategy. Thomas has successfully brought together his passion across 2 domains, banking and technology, to lead digital transformation initiatives, and his views on disruptive technology trends and CX will be super insightful. The last session for this evening will feature a fireside chat with Banali Malhotra, Director Marketing at RAC Bank, one of Asia's most influential CMOs. She has been a relentless proponent of data-driven marketing for many years now. And her views on transformative Martech leadership will be a session you can't afford to miss either. So yeah, so there you have it. What a fantastic afternoon ahead. I hope all of you are excited. Just a couple of quick administrative points. We will stay on time, so we are going to start off right away, and we don't really expect delays beyond a few minutes. So yeah, grab your popcorn and stay glued to the sessions as we kick off now. Wonderful. So let's start off with our first event for the day. So succeeding with modern marketing actually requires a combination of out-of-the-box thinking, creativity, and a strong analytical bent of mind, I would say, right? And our panelists today are eminent industry leaders who have demonstrated all of these skills many times over in their careers. So let me introduce them without further ado. Our first speaker for today is Usama Zafar. Usama is the head of digital marketing, CVM, and analytics at Abu Dhabi Islamic Bank. He is a marketing leader with deep experience in business planning, media planning, performance marketing, data analytics, user experience design, funnel optimization, and growth hacking. Usama has worked and collaborated with some of the best companies in the world, such as Amazon, Etihad, Noon.com, Tesla, Nissan, Facebook, Google, Coca-Cola, Zomato, etc. And he has substantial experience in integrating online and offline channels that has delivered over 4x ROI and over $1 billion in annual sales. Welcome, Usama. Our next speaker is Mandeep Gulati. Mandeep is the Director of Digital Products and Innovation Insurance at Al Raji Takaful, Saudi Arabia. He has over 15 years of experience in digital marketing, marketing and technology, playing myriad roles as a digital marketer, developer, brand custodian, online business lead, and product head. Mandeep has previously worked in companies such as eBay, Reliance, Jio, Times Internet, Aegon, and Ibibo. He's an avid fan of Hindi and Punjabi music, and loves to read everything about history, human behavior, and future technologies. His success mantra in life is listen, lead, learn. And we round off our elite panel today with Gaurav Chaparwal. Gaurav is an ex-head of marketing analytics at Emirates and having played a vital role in high-growth, new-age e-commerce companies like Souk.com, which is now Amazon, Snapdeal, and Make My Trip as part of their senior management. Gaurav has now set out on a new journey with Data Hash, where his mission is to guide the business and customer experience strategies using data-driven insights. Gaurav has an educational background in both engineering and business with some of the most prestigious institutes in India, namely IIT Kanpur and IIM Calcutta. Usama, Mandeep, and Gaurav, a very, very warm welcome to the panel, Rise of the Super Intelligent Marketer. Very, very warm welcome to all three of you.
Thank you, Shubhra, for the warm welcome.
Great.
Thank you, Shubhra.
So let me start by asking you a very, very foundational question. Maybe Usama, you could sort of kick off here. What stands out when we think of modern marketing is really the ability to effectively collect and organize and then sort of subsequently use customer data, right? So I would like to begin by asking you, what kind of insights do you try to extract and leverage from customer data, and sort of how do you use this to derive sort of business outcomes? If you could just kickstart there, and I'll go around.
I think when it comes to the kind of data that we're all looking for as marketers, whether it's traditional or it's, the new, what we call digital face of marketing, I think it boils down to two things, really. One is who, as in which sub-segment and micro-segment, as we say, are we looking for? And then, at what moment, and Google calls it micro moment. Some people call it event-based marketing, but it's really marketing down to that segment of one customer at the right juncture that most of our, I think direct response or performance-related efforts are now focused on. And then, a close second, which is, in the age of personalization has become very important, and which has been a game changer in the industry. Earlier, if you were good at math, you had a very good chance of being a very good search marketer or an SEO expert. But now with this art of communicating the right content and developing that emotional connect, it's become so important. It's really life and death when it comes to cost per acquisition and starting at cost per click.
Wonderful, wonderful. So I think essentially you're saying try to understand the who and the when, and then try to boil it down to a customer segment of one, and then work your way from there. Mandeep, if you could jump in here, that would be great as well.
See, honestly, about 3 or 4 years back, what we were trying to do is that we were trying to create micro segments, getting a lot of information from what we were getting from our campaigns, things like CTR, CPCs, all those metric and all. right? And about 4 years back, 3 years back, the data that we were collecting was pretty small. I mean, it was easy for us to analyze it with our naked eyes, right? Put it on an Excel, see the results. You'll know where the leakages are, and you'll correct things, right? What has happened in the last couple of years and all, and I mean, is that the amount of data that we all of us have started collecting, right? And the kind of interactions customers are having with your platforms now, be it on your mobile apps, on your websites, etc. And coming of age of technologies like CDP, yeah, DMPs and all, with so much data coming to us, right? It's impossible for us to now any longer say that, okay, this is one data point or data analysis I look at and I'll form my insights. There is no point doing that. My suggestion to marketers is that leave it to the machines, leave it to the experts. And taking away from where Osama, left, it's best for us to not intervene with what the system wants to decide. We can't compete with artificial intelligence. Those are my 2 cents, man.
So I will hold you to that, because I do want to grill all of you folks on machine learning and intelligence as well. But I want to give Gaurav sort of a chance to jump in here as well. So Gaurav, first of all, congrats on your new stint. I know you're now on the other side of the table after sort of being on the customer side, and I know you have really sort of worked in this space very closely as well. So chime in with your views here. Do you agree with Osama and Mandeep?
Yeah, I think they're bang on the point that the insights have to go really, really micro now. And those are one set of insights that marketers truly need to understand. So, when I say micro insights, they would typically refer to, who, as in which customer or customer segment, like as small a segment as you can have, which product, which what time of communication, like when, as Osama said, right? So all those are micro decisions, and those can be left to no humans cannot possibly even make those decisions, because if you're a sizable business, I mean, unlike you and I who are like in a B2B business now, the B2C businesses which are like catering to customers have hundreds of thousands to millions to several hundreds of millions of customers, and no human, possibly sets of human sitting, can be making those decisions. But at the same time, there is also a set of what I call macro decisions, which is the which have traditionally been the old school Excel based decisions in terms of which channel is doing well as compared to others. Search versus display versus say organic marketing channels like email or push notification, etc. and so on. So in terms of the which category or should be pushed, or what level of marketing investments as a percentage of GMV in terms of business model could be invested, etc. Those macro decisions also need to be more and more data driven. So they have been Excel data driven to an extent, but I think the majority of those decisions is evolving with things like multi-touch attribution, right? So being able to understand when you are spending across multiple channels, not just using your last click attribution in terms of the understanding which channel really got you the customer or conversion, but giving like all channels a fair due of their contribution to the goal or conversion, right? So those are the two kinds of decision we need to think about, or insights we need to think about. There is the micro decisions that Osama and Mandeep referred to, and then there are macro decisions. And there also, I'm not saying it's humans eventually taking it, but humans, it's almost like the Terminator, right? So it is not the Terminator that wins. It is the combination, which is a human along with a good machine, is what the winning combination is, right? So that's what I think in both sides, micro and macro decisions, we should be doing.
Absolutely.
Osama has something to add.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, a good analogy you used there, Gaurav, of the Terminator. I've always had a problem with that movie. That such an advanced robot still is going around with a picture and looking for the guy, right? so, so, and that there are some parallels we can draw in today's world of AI driven marketing. You can get your models made. We do that. We run about, I don't know, 420 micro campaigns. So and those are on the back of different models that we run for different purposes. That's where the whole customer value management life cycle management comes in. But at the end of the day, there are some decisions when it comes to especially testing different content types that are key, right? So remember, your targeting only gets you thus far. It tells you who to talk to and what to talk. But when it comes to the emotional connect, especially in this part of the world, right, where you have such a different mixed bag of nationalities, where not only do you have an Arabic speaking audience, you have an Arabic speaking audience of 22 countries, where one word can have 22 different meanings, right? So end of the day, still needs some human intervention, especially on telling the right story, having that emotional connect as a brand. Today's brand more and more is about what you stand for rather than what you sell, right? So those values need to be communicated in your content as well.
That's a very interesting perspective you bring in, because I think but and that perspective is what I'll sort of dive into next, which is when you bring in creative, how does that play along with machine learning. But just for the audience, I do want to very quickly summarize the views, and I think I'm going to just steal your framework there, Gaurav. I love the framework that you used to sort of bring everything together that Osama and Mandeep said, which is, I think ultimately when you think about organizing and using data, you should look at it as a set of micro decisions that you want to make, and macro. Micro involves really understanding every aspect of what what the user is looking for. Who is this user? What products, when, and so on and so forth. And being able to do that at scale, and being able to organize that effectively, and then sort of step back and really look at the macro picture in terms of, okay, for those kinds of audiences, what is working, what is not, right? And so I think you brought a very interesting angle there towards the end, which is the angle of you don't like Terminator because there is obviously an element of creativity involved. So let me sort of, and I think that brings me really to the next question, which is no conversation today on intelligent marketing is really complete without a reference, which has already started, I see, with Mandeep, to machine learning and AI. So therefore, two parts to my question. And you started talking about it. What's been your experience with machine learning? And is there really a right time to consider it? Because I've heard in many cases, customers tell me, okay, I've got a lot other low-hanging fruits that I can really pick and choose from. So I just want to sort of, and lastly, how does it interplay with creativity, which I think you touched upon already?
Okay, so I think we've been using data modeling of some form. It may not have been AI driven, it may have been rule based engines since 2009 in the bank that I work for, Abu Dhabi Islamic Bank. And what we have seen is it depends on the volume, of course, the veracity of the data. And number two, as far as I can tell you, I don't see a use case which goes beyond machine learning, into deep learning and AI in a commercial application yet. So I would say it depends on the complexity of the data and the multiple systems you're using and how real time they are. Because in some cases, it has to be real time, right? And for others, even a 2 week delay is fine. So what we've seen is that obviously the more you integrate, the more you bring into your data lake, the more ROI you see, and it's always a build to operate kind of model. So evolution, not necessarily revolution. That's been our experience so far.
Wonderful. And so, Mandeep, I am now going to bring you in and say, I think you were very clear. Leave it to the machines. That's what you said, right? So what's been your experience of using using AI, and sort of what are some of the outcomes that you've been able to get?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, Subra, on the marketing side, we have been running propensity models on our search campaigns, on our display campaigns for a long time now, right? And they're purely all machine based. We once we set them, we leave it. For example, my experience with e-commerce, with insurance, we set up those shopping campaigns or PLA campaigns. We set up the propensity model segments and all, and we let the machines move products across bits or keywords across bits, depending on which category you are, looking at. in my current portfolio, to be honest, I am betting a lot on machine learning, right? Because we are planning to now introduce telematics into this scheme of things, right? Into pricing insurance, which means you have to record driving data of millions of customers, right? And then price insurance for them. Something like this definitely cannot be done by an underwriter or a team of underwriters sitting somewhere in the office. This has to be brought into a machine learning system so that we can analyze driver behavior, etc., 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 and then price the insurance and risk according to that. Insurance specifically has a lot of use cases, like even for claim frauds and all. We are already using it. A lot of insurers are using it. We are also using it. You click a picture of a car damage and all. We'll assess whether your images are correct, accurate. All of that is done by machines. It's not done by humans anymore because the volumes are huge, like Osama said. Okay, so there are marketing. I don't know, not very earth-shattering cases in marketing, but a lot of earth-shattering cases, or big cases in other domains.
Yeah, you touched upon other domains, and Gaurav, I know. So two things I want to ask you. One is, I think you obviously spend a lot of time on the e-commerce side. So I do want you to touch upon some of the things that the audience might be interested in, like, for example, the recommendations algorithm, for example, product recommendations. If you could maybe touch upon that and any other use cases that you've seen of machine learning, number one. And number two, I think in your new role now at DataHash, I'm sure you now speak to a spectrum of customers with different levels of maturity. So I think your advice on how to really look at AI for somebody, let's say, who's just at the start of digital transformation. So maybe if you could just touch upon those 2 points, that would be great.
Okay. So taking the first question, in terms of recommendation engine, and I still remember the first recommendation engine that I wrote at Snapdeal. This was about 9 years ago, and recommendation engines were not like available out of the box to an extent that they were not productized a lot. And all these words Hadoop and Mahout, etc., were just about kind of becoming the buzzwords at that stage. And what has happened over the last couple of years is a good portion of this intelligence is getting productized, right? So you can certainly use a lot of homegrown intelligence depending on what kind of use cases you have. At the same time, there is a lot that's available in products as well. So there is a very clear decision of build versus buy that you have to make. It depends on, I would say, two factors. One is, and I think data scientists are, the most coveted. And there is also this joke about like who's a real data scientist versus, the wannabe data scientist, right? So people who are able to really kind of bring that data into actual business use cases, because the gap here is this: there is a set of academicians or people who are brilliant PhDs who can write beautiful recommendation engines and algorithms, but they cannot somehow bring it to light of the day in a website or in a business use case. Then the other hand is business people who do not have any clue of what statistical significance means, what lift means, and they are running these data science operations where they have absolutely no idea. They just say, okay, somehow put a recommendation engine, call it data science, and I'm good, right? So all the snake oil stuff out there as well. So I would say, I think it is important to understand whether you have the right set of data scientists or the business leaders who understand data well enough to be able to make this a reality in your organization. And then if not, or then you are better off trying to at least gauge what products can do for you, and then move towards products, right? So that's the how, I mean, recommendation engines, I would say, for any organization, whether it's e-commerce or even insurance or BFSI sector or many of the sectors, right? So that's the first aspect. The second aspect about your question about how the different I call analytics maturity stages, right? So people are at different stages of maturity in terms of not just their analytics also, but also in terms of the size of the business, etc. What is important is, if you are at a relatively early stage, I would rather not suggest going into the most complex use cases of AI or machine learning. as one of my previous managers used to say, let's focus on doing basics brilliantly. So that's the key for relatively less mature organizations. Not get caught in the hype. Focus on the basics, but do them brilliantly well. And that's where the use of AI comes in simple use cases which are like heartwarming or value adding to users, rather than the most hyped use cases and most complex ones, because the return on investment will not be either very high, or you are basically penny wise pound foolish, right? So what's important is you focus on the big blocks and the basics first, and then as your organization matures, as your analytics maturity increases, then pick up more advanced use cases. But most people kind of get caught into the hype because somehow there are these check boxes and organizational visibilities that people want to create. I think we'll have to figure a way to kind of move out of those.
Yeah, that's such an important point you bring up, because I've seen, and I work with the broad spectrum of data scientists, and one of the things I've consistently seen is that the really sort of incredibly insightful data scientists are always able to take a step back and say, you don't need a fancy algorithm for this. I'll just get it done for you in Excel. Right. And to be able to have that sort of a mindset where you don't necessarily boil the ocean or sort of try to fit, make every problem a nail because you have a hammer. And I think that is such an important thing. And in doing that, if you can keep it, do the basics brilliantly, like you rightly said, I think that's a very, very good way of looking at it. Usama, I think you wanted to chime in there around the time when he was talking about data scientists as well. So yeah, please do jump in here.
Yeah, so yeah. Firstly, I totally agree. Not every problem is something that needs deep learning and things to solve. But I think if you're starting your journey, look at your customer life cycle, right? So like in banking, we would look at starting from acquiring relationships. How can I improve my acquisition? And sometimes the answer might even be outside your organization, right? So today, Google and Facebook give you these beautiful services called customer match and custom audiences, which let you, upload an audience, and then they can run their own algorithms and find you the lookalikes. And then you move on to onboarding the customers. Then you're talking about cases for activation, migration, onboarding, activation of digital channels. If your acquiring channel is not a digital channel today, right? Because most of the acquisition is also happening digitally. And then you're talking about the other, value management in terms of getting the next best product or offer. Or Mandeep is probably the guru of this, this recommendation part. And then for us in banks, there is attrition which needs to be managed. But before attrition, there is something called silent attrition, which is in many ways a bigger killer than attrition, because when you are tried, you at least close your account. We don't have to maintain it.
Yeah.
Whereas in silent attrition, you just reduce the size of your whatever card spend or deposit, and then we're stuck with you with maintaining something which isn't really generating ROI. Similarly, there is a certain value around the customer's lifetime value, sorry,
Yeah.
that needs to be highlighted, especially for larger organizations, because with the increasing competition, like I can talk about banks, there is a certain pressure on getting salary relationships, right? And there's only so many in the market, right? And there is a certain that sort of feeds the life cycle, right? So you should be able to estimate that funnel, that okay, if I get these many, how many will I be able to retain?
Yeah.
And then move on. That's on the macro view that Gaurav keeps talking about, and then obviously the micro view comes in where you're talking about the event based marketing signals. You can easily prioritize these by economic value and start with the ones which are simplest to do it. If nothing, you don't have a lot of it is the execution, right? So you don't have to wait for a fancy CRM integration.
Yeah.
If you can load up all of these on an internet where you just enter the customer ID and the front line, they can see it, do it.
Yes.
We've done that in the past and it's worked.
Yeah. That's a
So,
very
because your
Mandeep.
front line is waiting to sell, and the more you can aid them, the better it is for you.
Absolutely. I think action over analysis, basically. Mandeep, you've obviously, I think, worked deeply now in two different markets, right? Both India and Middle East. Sort of, in any sort of thoughts with respect to data-driven marketing and the use of machine learning across these markets that you've seen?
Do you want to talk about differences or use cases? What do you want to talk about?
No, I think just in terms of relative levels of maturity and potentially even in sort of while you giving examples of use cases.
Yeah. Okay. So I think I was not expecting this market to be digitally so advanced, to be honest, when I joined in. Okay, and I was pleasantly surprised when I joined here, especially in the insurance domain, the kind of data that is available, right, which we struggled with in India. I mean,
Yeah.
one of the largest markets, all of that said and done, India stack and all. But I mean, trust me, the way this region is running and the amount of the kind of digitization they have and the kind of services that the government is providing to the private companies.
Yeah.
I mean, the only difference that it'll be very quick to for this market to be one of the best markets in terms of and challenge Southeast Asia and China, right? It'll be easier for this market to do that very easily. Just one thing, there is definitely a dearth of talent. Okay, and we need to get the right people. We need to train them. We need to keep them on the job. And that's one thing that if this market succeeds in doing, they can easily beat the best in terms of digital space.
Wonderful.
Right? All domains.
Very astute observation, I would say. Yeah. We have time to throw in one fun question, which I would love to sort of throw at you. I think we're obviously, coming out of the pandemic, we're also starting a fresh decade, so to speak. And I think obviously last decade was explosive in terms of, the sort of usage of data and just the general availability and the cost of analysis, right? So what's your one big, bold prediction for the coming for the coming decade, on how data-driven marketing is going to evolve? I will start with Gaurav and then work my way to Mandeep and Osama. You're on mute, Gaurav.
Second time in a session. Okay. So the next 10 years are going to be interesting from a different perspective. I think the last, we have been talking about data-driven marketing. I think I would say we'll start becoming more and more insight-driven marketing. And I'll qualify what the difference really is. All this, we marketers have been a bit greedy, and we have kind of went ahead and captured every single bit, right? So every click you have done, every product you have viewed, every email you have seen, etc., and so on, right? And then there has been a backlash about privacy, saying, okay, even if it is just machines who are possibly seeing all this data, why is this data being, why is every move of mine being monitored and captured and possibly for somebody to see? What we are seeing already is a shifting of gears, and if you would have noticed, Google has recently announced something called federated learning of cohorts, FLOC. Apple has announced something called SK Ad Network, right?
Yes.
So these tools, the way they are thinking of is they are not reaching out to they are keeping privacy intact. They are basically allowing the privacy of the customers to be have its sanctity. At the same time, being able to bring out the traits, being able to understand the gist of the user. And we like to think we are more individual than we really are. Like we are more different than we think. In reality, if you think about it, if just 10 unique variables with 10 values each, right? Not a big deal. I mean, 10 variables, 10 values each is more than the entire human population put together, right?
Yeah.
So technically, you can have all the individuality you imagine the end customers to have, but be described by just 10 variables and the 10 distinct values of those. Now, I think what we are evolving into is basically those understanding of those insights rather than individuals, and hence get into insight-driven marketing. So privacy will kind of have a pushback, and then I think that's how we will the data-driven marketing will evolve in the next 10 years. Yeah.
Well, yeah, fantastic. I couldn't agree with you more on this. And I think that's definitely a trend that we've started already seeing with FLOC and other frameworks coming in. Usama, to you next. Your one big bold prediction for the decade ahead.
I think it'll get interesting with new channels being added. So outdoor has been quite a quagmire for us so far. And I think with the new tools that come in, you'll see more and more measurement coming for outdoor media advertising. And I will this and you know I can't speak for the entire market, but I can definitely say for the financial services market in the UAE, Saudi, and Egypt, you'll see marketing divisions become more of a profits, more profit centers,
Yeah.
rather than a cost center type approach. Which means, yes, as a marketer, your life will change. You'll get a variable income. That's the personal side of it. But on the professional side, it would mean that a lot more future decisions will be taken by CMOs. And I think and the third prediction is there will be a certain amount of sensitization because there's a lot happening in terms of digital transformation. And then at least this region will, I think, sort of reach where UK is right now, where they're now seeing how much of human interaction do we need to bring back into the system.
Yeah. I think valid observations. In fact, when you spoke of outdoors, one of the trends that at least I'm actively tracking and I'm personally passionate about is addressable TV. And I think as more and more TV sort of goes to devices, that's I think the ability to target users on TV in a much more relevant fashion is, I think, definitely going to pick up. But yeah, agree with all your things. Mandeep, over to you. You are on mute, so I guess you'll have to go unmute, and then your big sort of prediction.
I think CDP will become big, and Lemnisk will have some share of the business. You wanted a fun prediction, and yeah, I think no. But Subra, I mean that's the fun prediction that I have. But what's your prediction? You are the thought leader of the industry. I'd like to hear it from you.
Yeah, no, I mean, I would go with addressable TV, as I said. You put me on the spot here, but I think that's one big trend that I would definitely encourage everybody to start looking at because there is a very, very sort of distinct shift in TV viewing behavior or sort of screen viewing behavior in general, right? With more and more people moving towards Netflix, Amazon Prime, and so on and so forth, right? And I think that fundamentally means that the advertiser's ability to stop looking at a regional sort of level ads to sort of really start looking at smaller micro segments and be able to drive relevant sort of messaging, marketing on TV is interesting. And I think that's probably the one big trend that I would call it. Yeah. So wonderful.
Nice. Thanks, Subra.
Absolutely. So thank you so much, gentlemen. I think this was just sort of reaching the end of the 30-minute mark here. So this was an incredibly insightful session. Thank you really for taking the time out. I enjoyed speaking with you, and I'm sure the audience got a lot of valuable takeaways. So thanks a lot for joining today.
Thank you.
Thanks, Subra. Thanks, Gaurav. Nice meeting you again. Thanks, Osama.
Thank you, Gaurav. Thank you, everyone else, for coming. Thanks.
Great. So as I said, folks, we have a packed agenda today. So I will jump right into the next session without any break. And in this session, we are really going to try and bring you an exploration of what it takes to implement and execute successful digital transformation strategy, right? And in that context, I'm really thrilled to introduce the incredibly insightful and articulate Thomas Cherian for this session. Thomas is the Executive Vice President and Head of Technology Retail Banking Group at Martech. He's currently driving a digital mission to transform and create strategic and future-ready digital capabilities that drive efficient, scalable digital business for Martech. He is in charge for the technology and transformation strategy that accelerates and ensures sustainable growth for digital business at Martech. With a career spanning over 20 years in the banking industry, Thomas spent nearly 2 decades in technology leadership roles at global banks, Citi, Bank of America, and Merrill Lynch, As executive director at Bank of Singapore, he spearheaded the effort to map digital capabilities to strategic priorities and was accountable for developing and executing digital roadmap over short, mid, and long-term horizon, achieving the financial goals. And Thomas is a firm believer in fintech and startup ecosystem that has the potential to reshape the future of banking industry. And he has driven strategic alliances with banks and multiple fintech companies on the adoption of emerging technologies such as mobility, advanced analytics, AI, and blockchain technology as it drives the future landscape of banking ecosystem. Thomas also has a strong background in human capital development, cultural transformation, and change management. He understands the need for continued innovation in technology, upskilling of people, and reimagining existing processes to drive positive change within the organization. He holds a professional certificate in fintech and future commerce from MIT and a bachelor's in technology from Cochin University, India. Thomas, and a very, very warm welcome to the Lemnisk CDP Summit. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us today.
Thank you so much, Subra. I'm extremely happy and humbled to be here to share thoughts around customer experience and how digital transformation is going to take the industry by a stride. Thank you so much.
Wonderful. And I would like to begin by asking, and I know that you are incredibly passionate about both banking and technology, but let's just start from the business side of your passion and then sort of move into the tech side a little bit. In the context of banking, and I think the most foundational question here is, why is personalization and customer experience becoming critical for banking? Especially for retail banking. We know of why an Amazon needs to personalize, why a Netflix needs to personalize, of course, and we see world-class sort of customer experience there. Talk about why it's important in the context of banking. And I know you have some really strong views there.
Yes. Yeah. So I think what you told is exactly right. That is, why Amazon is personalizing or Netflix is personalizing. And that exactly is the need for banks to personalize as well, right? Because if you see the products and services that are offered by banks across regions, right, there is no big differentiator in the products and services. So the biggest differentiator that is in the banks is the customer experience that they provide. And hence now it's becoming increasingly evident that the moment you provide a superior customer experience, there you have a competitive edge and hence you get a bigger market share, right? So that's I think one of the reasons why banks are focusing on giving a superior customer experience and personalized services. Now, when we talk about a superior customer experience or personalized services, right, I just wanted to share my thoughts about what a customer experience is, because people talk about customer experience a lot these days, right? Yeah. So to me, customer experience is how a customer interacts with the bank, interacts with a brand, right? It can be a bank or it can be Amazon, Netflix, etc., whatever it is, right? And the reason to provide a superior customer experience is because when a person interacts with the brand, it's very, very important for the brand to echo what it has to give it back to the customer, because that's the only way the customer stays loyal. The customer tries to give back to the brand as well, right? And the customer automatically brings in new people, new customers to the brand, right? So and hence it's extremely important to have superior customer experience delivered, right? Personalization is just a means of providing superior customer experience. And again, this is my view. I'm not sure whether you agree with that or not, but personalization is a means. And again, personalization is not just digital. So if you look at banks specifically, right, you can provide personalized services in branches which are not digital. You can provide personalization in the services that you provide, for example, a checkbook or a credit card. These things have been there in the market for a while already. These are all personalization. Now we are moving to the next level of personalization, which I call as hyper personalization, or I read as hyper personalization. We are moving towards that, right? So that's my view on customer experience and personalization. And there is definitely a need for banks to focus on customer experience and personalization.
Absolutely. And I think the core point there that I will sort of pass to the audience is CX as a differentiator, especially when when the products and services are sort of limited and sort of sort of similar looking. So I think that's a wonderful point, and I think I do want to clarify that I fully agree with you on sort of the difference between personalization and customer experience, especially because these terms just get loosely bandied about a lot.
Yes, they just keep.
Yeah.
Yeah, they are, most of the time they are used interchangeably, right? So people talk about personalization and customer experience interchangeably, and I strongly believe customer experience, like for example, there are organizations that build customer experience units, right? I personally don't believe that customer experience is just a unit's responsibility. Customer experience has to be there with everyone who is there in the brand, who deals with the customer. It can be a technology unit, it can be a business unit, a marketing unit, sales unit, a service unit. It has to be there with everyone. That's my view.
That's one thing I'll touch upon in just a few minutes from now, which is how do all these sort of different functions come together. But just diving into the customer experience, sort of the setup of it, and especially using technology. So the next sort of question that I would like to ask you is, how do you use technology to transform customer experience, and specifically, what are the elements as per you of a successful tech strategy, and especially how do you look at emerging technologies like customer data platforms in this context?
Yeah, so let me first talk about the tech strategy piece, right? So if I have to talk about tech strategy piece, I would probably name four pillars in a tech strategy for providing superior customer experience, and the first one being hyper personalization, right? So what do I mean by hyper personalization is to provide a customer with the right product or service at the right place at the right time. So, and you can even call it as contextual marketing or contextual service that is being provided, right? So this is definitely going to be a key, which is one of the key pillars in the tech strategy, hyper personalization. The second one being providing an omni-channel service, right? So it's no more going to be the customer is not going to be going to the branch or to your online banking or mobile banking for services or calling a call center for the services. You can be anywhere, and I just joined some time back and was listening to the panel discussion as well, right? Where you're talking about the addressable TV. You were talking about this earlier, right? So in terms of omni-channel experience, you should be able to provide your customer with the same experience that you have on an online banking, in the branch, in a call center, or you're talking to an RM, a relationship manager, right? So omni-channel experience is definitely key. Third pillar or the third line would be self-service. These days, customers are wanting to have things to be done by themselves. People don't want to call a call center. People don't want to reach out to an RM. They are happy if they can solve the problem by themselves, right? And I'm sure, Subra, you would have booked a cab on Uber, right? And you don't have to call a call center at all. You can even chat with the driver whether you are coming. You can. So there is no need to call anyone. You can solve the problem by yourself, right? These companies, if you see, they don't even have a call center, or most of them don't even have a call center. Everything is solved on the phone itself. So that's something that is very critical, right? Self-service. The fourth angle is using capabilities of AI or machine learning to understand what are the problems faced by the customer and have a feedback loop to improve customer experience, right? So this would be the four strategic pillars, I would say, as a tech strategy for improving customer experience, right? Now, going to the question that you asked on the customer data platform. I think customer data platform, and not just because I'm in this forum, customer data platform, I think is going to be the next biggest thing in providing a superior customer experience. See, if you talk about data, right? All organizations have got data, so much of data, right? They have huge amount of data. The problem sometimes is just because that we have a lot of data, right? A customer data platform would definitely allow us to analyze the data, to provide proper segmentation of your customer, and hence later on provide personalized offers and personalized services. That's what a customer data platform does and should be doing, right? And so that's something that is going to help organizations deliver superior customer experience. And hence, I strongly believe customer data platform is something that's going to be big, at least in the next couple of years, for organizations who are looking for delivering a superior customer experience. Yeah.
And I think the four elements that you touched upon, which I'll just recap for the listeners again. So I think one is hyper personalization, omni-channel, self-service, and AI machine learning. And I think what strikes me is that all of this foundationally rely on sort of data being available in sort of in a very usable, insightful fashion. And I think therefore, if you need to get all of this right, you need a foundational system. And I think to me, CDP really represents that sort of of a foundational system. So I fully agree with you on that. And I think I come back to one of the things that you touched upon earlier, where you said that irrespective of the unit or the function, they all need to participate in this whole sort of drive towards superior customer experience. But oftentimes, I am sure you would agree that this is mired in all sorts of organization level challenges, right? So different OKRs, different goals, whatnot. So how can different functions align? And I know you've done it multiple times. How can different functions align to drive transformation, and especially talk about the IT intersecting with marketing alignment? If you could just also sort of throw light on that.
Yeah, so I think, and this is not in relation to any specific organization I have worked or I am working in. So I think, and I'm a firm believer of this, that if you really want to have a successful digital transformation done, right, it has to be led by the business. It has to be led by the business, and it has to be enabled by IT. Right. So I'm a firm believer of that. And if you look at organizations, there are a lot of silos. And as you rightly mentioned, different organizations have got different KPIs, OKRs, etc., that are being set. Right. So I think to have organizations created around a common purpose, which is to have as squads to deliver a common goal, a common purpose, is the best way to achieve this result. And that's not just in terms of a business unit which is focusing on product development. It's also applicable for a marketing team as well, right? So today, if you see in typical organization, marketing team just works with most of the time with outside agencies. And I'm sure, Subra, you know about this, right? I don't think there is a need for people to work with outside agencies. Marketing team also can define what exactly that they want to do, what they want to have, and they should be able to partner together with IT. And in terms of IT also, I would like to say the technology platforms or solutions have to be flexible, right? In most of the organization, technology platforms or solutions are quite rigid, right? So platforms and solutions should have an open architecture, right? It's impossible for an organization to build everything, right? So if you look at platforms, the platform should be able to come into the architecture that the organization has already defined, right? So it's not wrong to buy a product or a platform as long as it aligns with your reference architecture, and then it takes you to that common purpose. So I am a firm believer of working in a squad model with a common purpose, which is led probably, or in most of the cases, led by a product owner and a team of people from, say, marketing, customer experience, IT, from business analysis side, things like that, working together on a common purpose, right? So I think that's the way to go. I don't see that big bang projects which take 8 to 9 months to deliver is something that's going to become extinct, right? I think people should move to from a project mode to a product mode, developing minimum viable products and delivering incremental features as quickly as possible, and then thereby delivering customer value. That's what I strongly feel.
Absolutely, and I think Amazon calls it the pizza size team. So call it the squad,
one pizza team.
One pizza team. So I think just being able to, and I think, in fact, one of the things I've consistently seen with successful organizations is they bring in all these elements that you spoke of, especially a shared common purpose that starts right at the top. Very, very strong cross-functional alignment, number 2, and I think I'm just summarizing also in the process of what you said. And number 3 is sort of always being in an experimental mode and sort of iterating faster, so to speak, and not really chasing big bang ideas, but sort of starting small and sort of building on one success after another. And I think what I've often seen is that these little initiatives don't have an additive effect, rather they have a compounding effect. So I think if you keep executing like this, the value definitely seems to come up. Talk about IT intersecting with marketing, because I think till 3-4 years back, or maybe a decade back as well. Of course, this was a big problem, but marketing was heavily dependent on sort of IT to sort of achieve anything. Whereas now you see that technologies like CDP can potentially make sort of hand power and sort of democratize data a little bit more. Are you also seeing that trend, and sort of what are your views on that?
Yes. So so while talking about CDP, now that's the biggest advantage of having a customer data platform, right? So if you see in the legacy world, right, now always IT becomes a bottleneck in providing systems and solutions, right? Different teams within the organization need to come back saying that I need that report, I need this customer profitability report, I want to see what this person has done, etc., right? With CDP, what happens is that the data, right, the data layer is being created, and CDP sits on top of this data layer, and then you are basically giving the power of like what the person wants to do. And it's not just marketing, right? It's marketing, product sales, other business units who wants to find out like how much products did I sell last week, right? And what did my customer say? And even in certain organization, and it's applicable in our organization as well, is that it's being even given to the customer service team. Yeah. Right. So when the customer service team actually talks to a client, right, I'm talking to you, and then I'm able to see when did Subra call my call center last? When did Subra meet my RM? When did Subra last log in internet banking or mobile banking? Did he have any issue? When did he do a last credit card transaction, right? And I can see all of this when I'm talking to you, and then I can have a very engaging conversation with you, right? In terms of customer service. And for marketing, same, right? Even for marketing, that's exactly needs to be done. Any organization have got a plethora of products, right? If you look at banks, every bank, if you look at in UAE or in this region, every bank has got at least 3 or 4 cards, credit cards, I mean, right? Yeah. Now, which card should I be pushing to you, right? Which card should I be marketing to you? How do I make a decision, right? And in the legacy world, how these decisions are being made is that you have business intelligence units which are writing queries on a SaaS program, getting the reports as to what this customer has done in the past, etc. Now with the CDP, all this information is available real time. Right. Yes. So real time is the key word there, right? So when you do something with the bank, you get to see all those information real time, right? And then you are able to react accordingly, right? So that's a key thing, Subra.
Absolutely. One of the things that I do want to also try and get your thoughts on is the people element of all of this, because I know you've led teams to success as well. And I think the mindset, and in fact, in the Singapore summit as well, we covered some of these elements, which is, how can leaders really build a team that is ready to embrace disruptive digital transformation? Because oftentimes it means sort of having a risk mindset, having the sort of continuously experimenting mindset. It also means inculcating in the organization fearlessness with respect to failure, and some of these things are easier said than done, right? So what's sort of been your experience in some of these things as you try to sort of align people around this sort of a common goal?
Yeah. I agree with you 100% that this is completely a mindset game, right? So an organization which has been working in purely waterfall mode in terms of, say, for example, a project, right? To turn to agile, it's very difficult. So and as you told rightly, it's very easy to talk about these things, but then it's a full mindset change, and different people react to these kind of changes in different ways, right? So the first and foremost thing is to communicate what we want to do as an organization, right? And how we want to transform, what is exactly our goal or the purpose that we need to do. And the second element is to see, and definitely that's very, very key, is about upskilling, right? So you need to upskill to these latest technologies and to this platform and to these processes that we have. That's something that needs to be done. A third element to this is that I think it's time to say goodbye to big bang projects, right? And big bang projects, I don't think will ever exist again. In another couple of years, they will become like dinosaurs, right? They won't be there at all. And we need to pick up agile, evergreen IT rollouts. So that means in 2 to 4 weeks, you have products or features coming out, and then this being experimented with customers, and then see what's the value coming. Learn fast from failures if you have any, and then move on, right? I think that's what is going to happen, and that has to happen because the world is moving very fast, and we have seen from last year. I hope if we didn't have last year with the COVID pandemic, I think we would have been having this in a physical environment, right? And I would be shaking hands with you, right?
Yes.
And if I meet you also, I don't think I'll be ever be shaking hands with you. I'll be just doing a fist bump, right? So things are changing that fast, and I think we have to be extremely open, and we really need to see what is in store, right? Because that's the only way that we can adapt to the situation and we move forward, because nothing is going to change around us. Things are going to continuously change. And customers with whom we are dealing on a day-to-day basis are also changing as we are changing, and hence it's quite difficult to keep the pace. So you really need to build a team which has got open mindset, ready to upskill, ready to learn new things, adapt to the changing market environment, and then move forward together as a team. That would be my advice.
Absolutely. And I think if there's anything that that the pandemic did, like you rightly said, I think it's bludgeoned big bang initiatives, beyond. I mean, I think agile is the way to go. Some of these, and that's one thing that I'm also hearing, by the way, from many marketing leaders and technology leaders that I'm speaking to. I think they're all adopting this mindset that, and many people are actually caught unawares because, they were halfway through a huge big bang implementation. And the pandemic just sort of brought everything to a grinding halt. And I think that just put into sharp focus the need to have smaller windows, because, who's to say there's not going to be another such disruption going forward. So wonderful. So those are all the questions that I had, Thomas. I think this was a super insightful session from you. So thank you so much for joining us today. And I hope, again, all of you listening in, I'm sure will carry a lot of valuable learnings. In fact, I think the frameworks that Thomas spoke of, especially the 4 pillars, and being able to build on top of that, I hope you will carry all of that with you. So Thomas, thank you so much. Really appreciate it.
Thank you very much, Subra. Thank you so much. All the best.
Thank you. Thanks. Right, on to our last session for the evening, just to make sure. I think we're on time here, so that's fantastic. And I think this session that we're going to have now fits perfectly well with the other 2 sessions. I think the first session was about really the ideas and principles behind modern marketing, and you saw Osama, Gaurav, and Mandeep really touch upon that. The second session was all about the strategy and tech and the leadership element required to power these kinds of digital transformation. And I think in this next session, we are going to be talking to an exceptional Martech leader who has converted these principles and ideas that we spoke about in the last 2 sessions into hugely successful data-driven marketing strategies. Banali Malhotra, in my mind, epitomizes the modern CMO who operates at the intersection of creativity and cutting-edge technology. So I'm going to have a lot of fun speaking with her as well. Let me just introduce Banali first. As director of marketing at RackBank, Banali is responsible to grow RackBank's brand dominance and drive innovative marketing strategies. With over 20 years of experience across regions, she has successfully launched several campaigns and products that have earned many international accolades like Summit International Creative Awards, and the Advertising Campaign of the Year Award by the Asian Banker. Her interviews featured in Oxford University's marketing textbook, showcasing RagBank's success story. Under her leadership, RagBank has embarked on data-driven marketing to accelerate its digital maturity and growth. She's a regular contributor in the marketing press and has served on the juries of prestigious awards like FE's MENA, Festival of Media, M&M Global, MMA Spartans MENA. Her life story has been showcased in the inspirational book Break the Ceiling, Touch the Sky by best-selling author Anthony A. Rose. And she was conferred the title of Asia's most influential CMO's GCC edition in 2015 by Asian Leadership Awards and GCC's Best Marketer in 2016 by the Middle East Leadership Awards. She was also felicitated among 9 top unstoppable women achievers of Dubai. Gives me incredible, pleasure to introduce Banali to you. Banali, a very, very warm welcome to the Lemnisk CDP Summit. Thank you so much for taking time.
Thank you so much, Subra. Thank you so much. That was quite an introduction. Thank you so much. I'm flattered.
Introduction. I think there is obviously, I look up to you so much in terms of everything that you do, and I'm going to have a lot of fun. For sure.
You're setting up. Yeah, thanks so much. I'm actually quite excited to be here. And I look forward to our little chat. And I just joined in a little while ago when Thomas was speaking, and it was, I feel I'm going to be repeating a lot of what he was saying, but nevertheless, I think we're all in the same journey. So let's start.
Absolutely. No, and I think one of the things that I want to touch upon and start off is obviously, the last 18 months, I could say has been difficult for everyone the world over. So let me start by asking you, and I'll touch upon the leadership aspect with you. As a leader, how can marketing leadership be demonstrated during a crisis like the pandemic that we just saw, and how did you react, RagBank react? Just maybe touch upon some of those things.
Right. So I think digital adoption was accelerated, and that is something that everybody saw. And so I'm not going to dwell a lot on that aspect of it. But I think all of us, no matter what industry we are from, but even in our personal lives, I think started using technology a lot more just to be safe. And so therefore, banking was no exception, where digital adoption, which we were trying for many years, started seeing accelerated growth during the pandemic, as you mentioned. And I think it was for marketers to be sensitive at the point to be able to, I won't use the word leverage the situation, but to be sensitive to the situation and to respond suitably and sensitively. And that was the need of the hour. And I think the underlying principle was to show empathy to what was going around, because it was unprecedented what is going around, and it still continues to go around. And so many lives and people, and I was personally affected as well with the pandemic. So I think it's very, very important that brands are not seen, and companies and marketers are not seen as opportunistic, but are seen as sensitive. And so here is what we did as a response to what was happening, was to introduce our guiding principle of communication. We introduced the 5th C, which is care. We already always operated on the 4 C's, which were our guiding principles, that our communication should be cheeky, combative, clear, and confident. But the need of the hour was empathy. So we introduced the 5th C. And so all the communication that we sent out during this period was, viewed to ensure that it was sensitive to what was going on and people felt safe. We were encouraging people, driving home the point to be safe and not to be sorry. And whatever the bank could do to ensure that your safety was our priority. We, in fact, even changed our tagline for the time being from RagBank's tagline is simply better to simply safe. Again, driving home the point that it was the need of the hour, and we were wanting to make sure that you are safe and your safety is our priority. We were, so that was something that we changed in our communication strategy. But at the same time, I think the products and services also had to be relevant and had to be positioned in the same way. And I think education became very important to educate what were the various digital channels and options available to customers, which were probably not being used as much in the past. And I think contactless payments became the heroes, which was something which was being driven for years by all banks. But I think the pandemic saw the adoption, triggered extremely. And so we also had all our contactless payment options: Apple Pay, Samsung Pay, Fitbit Pay, Swatch Pay, Google Pay. So all those 6 platforms were available, and we ensured we educated our customer base to ensure that they were safe and still managed to use contactless payments. We also actually had, in 2019, actually had introduced and launched our own homegrown app called Skiply, which is an app which enables parents to pay school fees from the comfort of their homes. But and it's very convenient, and this was the right time for it to grow as well. So this became this saw accelerated growth, and this was our little rockstar app during the pandemic, and it was very timely and the need of the hour again. And a lot of our customers and parents really valued this product that we had in the market, and found it so much safe to pay school fees and all that they needed to do for the children. We're in fact working on that app to increase the ecosystem, to have more usage on that, to ensure that we can, make it more engaging for the base. And that all got triggered all during the pandemic. And this is how we responded to it. So it's been very interesting as well for us.
Wonderful. Care and empathy as the hallmark of almost introduced as a fresh pillar of engaging with customers. And I think that's really what you're calling out here. You touched upon one thing, and then you said, look, everybody obviously understands the value of digital acceleration, and I know that's happened. But I do know that in your case, and therefore in RagBank's case, you've always been a very firm believer and practitioner of using data to drive insights and to drive marketing. So that's just sort of changing tracks a bit. I do want to sort of ask you a little bit about that, so that the audience can learn. What are ways in which you have used customer data, and what results have you seen?
So data, and this is it's going to sound a little repetitive from all my sessions, but for me, I think while we always think that the customer is king and content is king, to me data is queen, and the two must marry. And and it's very important that we use data. And I think even before the first party data engagement with Lemnisk, I think we started, and I think we met, if I'm not mistaken, about 3 years ago. So yes, even before the cookie had started to crumble, so to say, we had started engaging, and you were, you guys had the foresight to sort of showcase to us how first party data is going to be important and engaging. And I think we jumped onto the boat with you guys, and have not looked back since. And I think we invested on the CDP platform with you for personalization and engagement on our website. We were probably one of the first ones in the region on CDP, and also that also helped us move on to be the first ones to invest on a DMP platform as well. So the combination of CDP and DMP, we are very proud to be amongst the first in the region, and we have a lot of case studies that I can, we can take forever to talk about. But I think just touching a few with Lemnisk, I think we've engaged on many insights with new to bank customers, existing customers, and our CRM to be able to then offer products and services at the right time, at the right place to our customers. And as a result, we have seen growth. And that's the proof. So we have seen 9x engagement and 8x time lead conversions on that platform. So it's all very nice to on theory, but when you see results, that's the taste of the pudding. So I think that's what has encouraged us, and we're all motivated. I think the teams are excited to work together, and then on so many of our recent campaigns, we are also using AI to be able to ensure that there is more precision-based targeting that is happening, and the very fact that both the teams work together is, I think, an achievement. And we were, I think, also mentioned in as a notable player in data in the Tear Sheet Awards, which was in 2020. We were named as and which is encouraging. baby steps, but it's encouraging. It's in the right direction, and I think we are pretty happy to be partnering with you guys on this platform. So that's where we are.
Likewise, Banali. I think 3 years back when we came, I think obviously you and the team had the foresight to really pick this up and say this is big. And I think the number of iterations we've done is fabulous, and I think the results are really sort of starting to compound now. So absolutely. One of the things that I think the phrase Martech, I would say, has probably picked up in the last few years, really to sort of talk about the fact that marketing is no longer just marketing, but really an amalgamation, if you will, of marketing and technology. And therefore, I think for a marketing leader as well, compared to probably a decade back when the creative element of marketing was more important, I think it's also become imperative for marketing leaders to be today to be sort of understanding or aware of technology, right? So
Yes.
What are your views on sort of why this is important, and especially how can this sort of be used to navigate the new normal?
So I think the main reason why it's important is because the customer expects it. The customer expectations have become so much now because they're used to it in every field that they're engaging in. The CX journey that they're using, the UX and the UX on CX is so important to them, so that you can't be left out. So you have to join the party to ensure that the experience is same on your platform as well. So I don't think the marketers have a choice. It's not about whether we should adopt technology. It's when and how soon can we adopt technology, and that's the whole thing. So, and which technology, the right time technology, because the customer wants the right ad needs to be served at the right time with the right product, right place, right this thing. So to do all of that, if all technology is required, I think the idea is there is no choice but to adopt. But I think which one to invest in is key to be able to navigate your way through which technology, which Martech technology, which stack to invest in, and to be agile and to ensure that the gap doesn't keep changing, because technology also keeps changing, and to be adaptive and to start using it fairly quickly is what is important. And like the Martech law, it does keep saying that technology changes, but organizations are slow, technology is fast, the gap keeps increasing, then it's always a catch-up game. And by the time you're ready for it, there's something new and shiny which is there. And then how do you do that? So, it's imperative that you get buy-in at the senior level as well within the organization, and the funding for it as well. So to enable that, you take the right decisions, right timely, and then adapt very quickly to be able to deliver what is available right now. And I think if you look at data, and this was something that I'd read, that in the Western world, I think about 30% of the marketing budget is allocated towards say Martech tools. But in this region, I don't think it's more than 10 to 15%. So there is a need, and there is a gap where we need to highlight how it's effective and how useful it is to be able to sort of start investing a lot more in it. Having said that, I think we're all on the same journey, and we have moved on to it. So yeah, let's hope that we catch up pretty soon on that field as well.
In fact, it's interesting you brought out this notion of 30% in sort of developed Western sort of world versus slightly lower percentages. In fact, that's one thing that was touched upon in the first panel session as well, where the panelists did see a shift in budgets towards sort of more digital kind of channels. So yeah, I mean, that's definitely an interesting trend to track for sure. One of the things that we spoke about again in the earlier summit, and this is so critical, is we sort of live in a world today where we often talk of technology, but don't really speak of the sort of relationship that you have with a vendor or with your Martech partners, right? Which I think, like for example, speaking out of personal experience, I can say that with TrackBank we have an incredibly sort of fruitful and very productive kind of relationship. So what is it that you look for when you sort of select a Martech partner? Because the software elements are just as important. The non-technical elements are just as important as the technical sort of capabilities that somebody brings. So what are your views on that?
Yeah. So Subra, if I may just break it into two sections, which is technical, what do we look in the technical partner and what do we look in non-technical? And so on the technical side, the operating principle that we use is best of breed to best in class. And that's the operating principle that we use. We work with the best partner in that function. And that also enables us to to have a blend of best in class solutions. And that's the operating principle. The best of breed model also constantly makes sure that all your stacks talk to each other. There is compatibility, there's integration, there's seamless integration. So we need to ensure that bit can happen when we're looking at a Martech partner. From a non-tech perspective, I think the 3 Ps that we look at is product, pricing, and people. And I think product and pricing are very, very important to see what is it that your objective is, and not what's the newest, latest, shiny thing out there, but what is the objective that you're trying to meet. So we are that product, and at what price, and what is going to be the ROI on that, because that's very important to first clearly have that objective in place before you look at what you're, at your partner. And having, after those 2 are covered, I think the third, which is extremely critical, is the people and the partner that you look at, because in the end, once you have the objective and the vision in place, it's you and your partner which is going to make it happen. So you have to have that combined vision to ensure that you're on the same path, you have the same enthusiasm. The people are an extension, the Martech partner resources are an extension of our teams. So the same vision and the same mindset is very important. So to me, people and the energies and the chemistry between the teams, this thing that can create magic. And I think that's what's happening with our teams and with the Lemnisk team, because it's I think critical. If that combination works, then sky's the limit for it, really. And that's what I say. And really kudos to your team as well for working so efficiently and effectively with our team. And I think really we are creating some creating some magic here and leading the way to do things. And we look forward to a lot more innovative and collaborative campaigns that can then be all can be proud of.
Absolutely, man. No, and kudos to you and your team as well, because I think we really do enjoy working with you, and I think just the sort of openness to trying out new things is obviously fabulous, and that's something that we as Lemnisk always try to sort of see if customers can keep pushing it to the next level instead of sort of becoming very stagnant. And that's we've been able to keep this whole thing fresh, and that's really amazing, right?
No, it's kudos to my team. Honestly, it's Mohit and Barbara and the people that you work with. It's the team which is driving it. So I'm very proud of them, and it's them who are dealing on a day-to-day basis with your team as well. So, and that's what I'm saying. The collaboration is working so effectively, so that you and I are both happy with the outcome as well. And that's where we are right now.
Wonderful. Banali, as always, incredible speaking to you. Thank you so much for generously sharing your knowledge with the audience today. Lots of nuggets in there, folks, and we will be sharing this offline as well with everybody. Thank you so much.
My pleasure, Subra. Thank you so much. Stay safe. Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.